The Three Peaks Yacht Race is one of the oldest and most demanding adventure races in the world. Crews of 5 sail from Barmouth in North Wales to Fort William in Scotland. En route, they have to moor at designated harbours, and 2 members of each crew have to summit and return from the highest mountains in Wales, England and Scotland, with the race finishing after the descent of Ben Nevis. There's a total of 390 miles of sailing and 76 miles on land, which include over 14,000 feet of climbing. This is the 39th edition of the race. Jeff West has won it 14 times and is back in Barmouth and after another win. No one knows the event better than him.
We've always known it's a great race. Lots of scenery, lots of navigational challenges with strong tides through gaps that you've got to try and get to or get through. There's no other races in the world that set that set of challenges.
The race has attracted a strong field though, and up against Jeff's experience is the ocean racing superstar Dee Caffari.
It's been on my bucket list for a while now, and to have the opportunity this year to step up and take part, I'm actually super excited. It's an area that I've never sailed in before. It's quite a technical area to sail in. I'm on a boat that I haven't sailed before, but it has a really good pedigree in this race. So I've just got to kind of pull it all together, but I know there's a big target on the back of my head and everybody else in the fleet is out to get me.
On Saturday afternoon, the 17 crews head out to the start line of the race. The first leg, a 62-mile sail to Carnarvon, where the pair of runners start the 26-mile running leg to the summit of Snowdon and back. Then it's a 100-mile sail through the Perilous Menai Straits and across Morecambe Bay to Whitehaven for the round trip to England's highest mountain. It's the toughest land section of the race, with cycling, running and an additional mountain pass to conquer. The final 228-mile sail takes the teams through the Scottish Islands to Fort William, and the last run, an 18-mile round trip to the summit of Ben Nevis. Since the event was founded back in 1977, the competitors have raced for the Daily Telegraph Cup, awarded to the first crew to finish the course. This year a new trophy will be added, the Barmouth Publicity Cup, awarded to the overall winner on IRC Yacht Handicap plus running times. The yachts are almost becalmed as they jockey for best position at the start, and the forecast for the next few days is for little to no wind. Dee Caffari gets a great position and a perfect start to her first Three Peaks.
The guys down the other end of the line aren't going to get here.
They're not going to get anywhere, are they? Well, there's breeze ahead of us.
Yeah, exactly.
At the bottom of this shot, Dee's Sail for Cancer team are leading the fleet. Apparito Digital Health and all-female crew are aboard the yacht with the black sails and fail to make the same impression in the first few minutes of their Three Peaks debut.
Race started, we're just over the start, crossed the line now.
We had a pretty awful start actually, but there was no wind at the start. There was absolutely no wind at all, and I didn't get it right. It was pretty inauspicious, but the start is a fun element to a very long, very serious, very challenging race, and so I was disappointed that I'd let the girls down, because actually this is the first time that we'd all sailed together, and I would have liked to have shown them a little bit more finesse. But you don't let those things get you down, and we soon sort of started chasing after the breeze, and off we went.
Pip Hare's a professional sailor with a life's experience on the world's oceans. Crew member Nikki Kerwin likewise is used to single-handed sailing, having recently crossed the Atlantic. Ocean rower Ellen Have Davis also joins the sailing crew, and in the predicted light winds she'll certainly need to get on the oars. The runners are ultra-distance athletes Joe Jackson and Larry Morgan. The crew hope to be the first all-female team to win the race, and they're making up ground after a poor start, hunting patches of wind.
Hey chaps, full
Having got an early lead, Dee is about to find out that holding on to it in this race will require fast learning.
It was really light winds. We knew what end of the line we wanted to be. We knew what the tide was doing. We were just about moving, and we kind of looked around because it's still not in my psyche that you can row, because it's just such an alien thing to do in a yacht race. And I looked and everyone had their oars deployed, and I was like, hey, we should have oars out here. Everyone else is... So we were like, quick, get the oars, get the oars.
Other crews have come prepared for the rowing ahead, and Go Ape are better equipped than most for the only yacht race that allows the use of oars. Others aren't rigged for rowing at all, but that's excusable if your vessel's more or less unrowable, such as the 21-ton, 57-foot Beneteau of Team Excellence. They won't be uncomfortable on this boat, but they will find it hard to compete in light winds. Pure Attitude are another team in their first 3 peaks. John Clintworth and skipper Fergus MacDonald make up 2 of the crew. The skipper's son George and fellow student Jack Bush are the pair of runners. And the final member of the 5 is the boat's owner, Martin Gray.
Stared at the weather, wondering if we were going to get any wind. From the start was interesting. I think that was almost the lightest air start I've done in a long time. But slowly that breeze came in, and off we went.
The first section of the 60-mile sail to Carnarvon is the race across Cardigan Bay to Bardsey Head.
And cut.
We were very clear on our tactics. We understood that it's a very good fleet we were racing against, and if you want to be in the front of the fleet, then you have to ensure you're getting every ounce of speed possible out of the boat at all times.
Boat speed alone is not enough. Accurate knowledge of the unique wind and tidal conditions of every part of the course is essential.
What you're dealing with in the open ocean is just weather all the time. However, a race like this, where you're navigating some very challenging entrances, you're having to look at tidal heights, you're having to look at incredibly detailed patterns of currents and tides. If you haven't read up on all of this beforehand, then you're not going to succeed in the race.
Cafaris Sail for Cancer are in second place at Bardsey Head, the halfway point of the first sailing leg.
We have the Southampton University guys near us, we have the girls near us, so you're kind of aware of where everybody is. But because we'd had a good start, all the salty sea dogs that have done this years and years and years were behind us, so you couldn't really get an indication from them. So we were like, well, they look really light, let's go for the pressure. Pressure's good here, I've got really good boat speed. And while we were happily sailing along quite fast, we realised that everyone else had gone inside and had whipped around on the tide that was now about 3 knots against us. And we sat there going, so that's what you do at this headland. And we sat there for quite a long time, and that was really my catastrophic mistake in that first leg.
Should have probably been riding along that shoreline.
While Sail for Cancer and the all-female crew Apparito are out in the tidal flow, Pure Attitude creep through on the inside.
Rowing in no air on the inside was the route round that head. We rowed hard there, and we realised at that point how significant the oars were, because there were 3 or 4 of us on the inside rowing, and there were 3 boats on the outside sailing quite well actually under spinnaker, but going backwards in the tide.
We knew we'd made the mistake because you could see it. Everybody highlighted it for us by sailing past us on our inside.
The crew of Apparito, with their distinctive orange spinnaker, or kite, didn't sail so far out into the tide, and they're working hard with whatever breeze they can find to get back to the front of the fleet.
Very tricky racing, but at least we got the spinnaker up now, which it's nice to see.
After rounding Bardsey Head, there are still 30 miles to sail to Carnarvon.
As soon as we picked up some breeze there, oars in and kite up, That was quite interesting to start with. Our runners, I didn't realise that our runners had never actually been on a sailboat at all before. So when I asked them to pull the pole back, they looked at me and didn't really understand what to do. And then the breeze increased slowly. That was a great run for us. And it was straight down to Cardigan Bay.
Pure Attitude have moved up into second, behind Southampton University Officer Training Corps and narrowly ahead of Apparito.
Okay, let's go up 5, hold forward.
After falling from second to the middle of the pack, Di Cafari is racing to catch up.
The whole race is a real test of your skills in navigation and your confidence in the information you have and stuff. Because we're coming into places I've never been to before. Carnarvon was in the dark. It's quite a narrow channel. Everyone's talking about going aground all the time and the bar and staying in the channel.
Apparito are still third as darkness falls and the bar approaches. Their runners, Larry Morgan and Joe Jackson, are getting ready, but as the yachts enter the Menai Straits, there's little visibility and very little water under the boat. The slightest error could lead to disaster.
It definitely was exciting. We came in right behind Pure Attitude, and the channel there is very narrow.
That one was interesting. I think never done it before.
Okay, can you see the second buoy?
I can't see. What am I looking for?
At times we were sailing up this very narrow channel, probably only about 50 metres behind Pure Attitude in the dark, looking for the buoys, and we were doing 10 knots over the ground, which was, there was a lot of adrenaline going on.
Skippered by 22-year-old George Jurgensen, Southampton University have led most of the race so far, and they've dropped their runners for the 26-mile Snowdon stage and have a 22-minute lead over the chasing boats.
The girls were right behind us, and getting closer. In fact, as we came up to drop the runners off, they were a boat length behind us. You know, it was their first run. In this middle of the night, they had to run it as best they could. Simple as that.
We never really thought we'd be doing anything this intense before.
Joe and Lowry from Apparito are next.
Straighten up. Straighten up. Keep on going.
Jeff West's White Rose is fifth to land, while Di Cafari's runners are still on board.
We came in safe and sound, dropped our runners off in an absolutely ripping tide at the start of the Menai Straits there.
Di's runners are in seventh position. They'll be chasing from darkness to dawn. The first of 3 mountain runs is a stiff test for mind and body. The first mountain section of the Three Peaks Yacht Race is a 26-mile round trip to the summit of Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales. It begins with an 8-mile road section which leads to the Ranger Path, the route to the 1,000-metre summit. Southampton University still lead the race, but the chasing teams are closing in on them. Joe Jackson and Larry Morgan from Apparito have overtaken Pure Attitude and are now in second. Joe is an ultra-distance athlete in running and rowing. With Ellen Davis, she was part of the first all-female team to row across the Indian Ocean. Larry is a veteran of the world's toughest ultra runs, including a 350-mile non-stop foot race across the Arctic. She was one of only 6 to complete the event.
I hadn't met Larry at all prior to this, didn't know much about her, apart from that she's a bit of a legend, and she certainly lived up to it. Not just a legend, but an amazing sort of person to have on your side when the chips are down, or, you know, just when you need a bit of a pull up the mountain.
As Larry arrives at the top, Joe is struggling to match her.
Hi guys. You alright?
Good.
Joe?
On the summit of Snowdon, Pure Attitude retake the position.
Hold on, mate. Do you want to get the track around my backpack? Yeah, we'll do it.
Alright, Joe.
What a view. But when morning comes and the lead runners are descending, Alex Pilkington and Pavel Polonsky of White Rose have shown their class, passing everyone to take the lead. They're widely tipped to be the fastest runners on each mountain. Southampton University are now second. Nadir Wahab falling as he chases partner Beth Alban. A number of other teams are close behind as the race down the Llanberis path heats up. Larry Morgan from Aparito can do nothing as they lose places. Jo Jackson has an injury problem, and even though Larry is carrying her pack, she's struggling to keep up with her partner.
How you doing, Jo? My back's very sore, but we're doing all right. Doing all right.
Larry, she'd run ahead and sort of navigate a bit. She could see that there were times when it was painful and when it wasn't, and she just, hands up, this is what we do in ultramarathon running all the time. I'm happy to take your rucksack, do you mind? And, for the benefit of the team, that's what she did.
As they leave the mountain path and rejoin the road, there are still 9 hard miles back to Carnarvon. Sleep deprived and with bodies battered by the mountain, this is almost certainly the toughest part of the run. The leaders, however, use a tow rope to ensure that their speed is higher than that of the slowest runner. Their 3-hour, 52-minute run is the fastest on this stage and means that their boat, White Rose, will be the first to leave Carnarvon. Tense times for all of the sailors as they wait to see the situation they face after the run.
Pip was managing the team and she did a fantastic job of just keeping everyone calm and giving us sort of brackets to work between, and sort of vice versa. We gave her the times that we thought we would make it down the mountain, so it gave her a bit of time to work out how she was going to plan her race and vice versa.
With time and tide against them, every sailor and every runner knows these are vital moments. The leading boats are separated by less than an hour. Dee Kafari on board Sail for Cancer picks up her runners in 10th position.
I was awake when I saw the first boat pick their runners up and head off, and the tide was absolutely roaring against them, and it was such light winds you couldn't even see a zephyr on the water. And I was watching them go up, and they were staying to one side and they were rowing with their sails up. And even a few hours later, when our runners came back and we picked them up, you could still see the lead boat just on that top corner, and everyone had kind of concertinaed up. So we were like, well, the race starts again now.
The second sailing leg begins with the treacherous Menai Straits, a 13-mile channel of water between the Welsh mainland and Anglesey. After navigating this, they cross Morecambe Bay to Whitehaven for the second and longest mountain section. Few are as familiar with the complicated waters of the Menai Strait as Jeff West, and with a 20-minute lead, he carefully steers White Rose between the rocks. Despite putting in the fastest time, Pavel Polonski's on the oars. Other skippers let their runners rest.
The girls were very much of the nature that we should save ourselves for the running as much as possible, and they would do as much of the physical stuff on the boat as possible. So we did a very tiny bit of rowing, but generally it was the girls that were sailing, were rowing. They let us sort of recover whenever we were off duty, as it were.
The race through the Straits is tight, with the whole fleet bunching up behind White Rose.
The tide on the way up there can be very strong against you, but also you're sailing up quite a narrow channel, so the breeze is quite fickle. In the very light airs, it's all about keeping momentum going, because especially on a boat which is quite heavy, if the boat stops, you find it very, very difficult to start again.
It means constant work from the sailing crew to maintain boat speed, switching quickly between rowing and sailing as needed.
We'd actually found some wind and we were behind row. We were in a tacking duel with them, so crisscrossing across the river, and we just got ahead of them. So we then had sailed ourselves into second position, having left Carnarvon in seventh. We'd managed to get up into second, and we're feeling quite good about that. And we sailed over to one side of the river. The depth sounder was fine. We tacked and we're actually coming back into the deeper water, and there must have been a ledge or a slightly raised bit on the bottom of the river, which we bumped on and then stopped on, and row sailed past us.
It says we've got 0.2 underneath it.
Lodi, Joe.
I was nervous because it was a falling tide. We got everybody up on deck, leaning on one side of the boat. There wasn't enough wind to blow us off, but fairly quickly we then decided that we needed to row, and so me and Ellen got hold of the oars and rowed as hard as we possibly could.
Ellen, what if you keep rowing on that side?
We love a challenge. Come on, girls.
You just spin it as far as you can towards me. Or it might already be.
Should we stop rowing?
Finally, the boat comes free and they're back in the race.
They're actually rowing now.
Still in third as they chase Roe into the Swellies, a difficult passage of water between the Britannia and Menai bridges which link Anglesey to the Welsh mainland. After rowing the yacht out of potential disaster, Ellen and the crew of Aperito look relieved. The Swellies are the most dangerous part of the Menai Straits. A narrow, shallow channel cuts between the rocks and whirlpools. With the currents overpowering the breeze, the skippers have to steer a precise course with pinpoint accuracy to avoid grounding. The next group of yachts includes D. Kafari's Sail for Cancer.
It literally was a 13-mile row through the Menai Straits. Absolutely unbelievable.
The worst part of the race for us, lots and lots of rowing against that tide in very light airs, in a dangerous place, getting absolutely nowhere, with depths down to about 0.2 below us.
We were so done with rowing It was unbelievable. I was in a very dark place. I was not a happy Dee, and I'm always a happy Dee, but the rowing had broken me.
The smaller, lighter Moby J is much easier to row, and skipper Martin Pound is carving his way through the fleet.
I think the prize has to go to Martin Pound. He made my whole three-peak short race. Moby J left with their runners. Their runners did an amazing job on Snowdon. He leaves with whooshing tide against, and you think, where's he going to go? He goes up as far as he can, drops his anchor, drops his sail. They all have a little sleep. They have smoked salmon and scrambled eggs for breakfast because he told us all about it as we went past him. And literally 6 hours later, you see the boat go rowing past you at pace, and he's off. And I was like, that's why he's done it before. He knows exactly when to push and when not to push.
When we came out of the Swellies, we'd rowed through the Swellies and then pretty much out of the Menai Straits. And so when we left the Menai Straits, it was very disappointing just to go out into no wind.
It's the nature of yacht racing. You use a lot of physical, mental, emotional energy trying to get somewhere, and then the weather has a different idea.
Since the Saturday morning, we'd only had an hour and a half sleep each. We also realised that we were starting to get too tired to make good decisions.
They have no choice but to rest, while Moby J, with their well-timed effort, can row past another competitor.
We should be in better form once we're all a bit rested and well fed, and we'll be able to come back at them a bit later on.
With every change of conditions altering the nature of the race, there's time for anyone, including Dee Caffari, to come back into it.
Everybody else is behind now.
As they head for the hardest mountain stage of the race, and with bodies already battered by Snowdon, Scafell Pike awaits. Apparito's sleep tactic works well. The crew are refreshed and rehabilitated just in time for a positive change in the weather.
The breeze filled in and the boat started to move, and we actually just started to creep past people and creep away from them. The speed was building and we just kept working and working and working. And it's a great feeling. We were very, very pleased. However, also in recognition of the fact that results go up as well as down, and the fact that we'd overtaken all of those people doesn't mean you're going to stay in front, because they're going to be coming back at you as hard as they can.
Someone coming back at everyone is Dee Caffari, charging through the fleet as Whitehaven approaches.
You can see the leaders just to leeward and ahead of us, the girls there, the Welsh team, just running along the edge of the wind farm. We're desperately trying to track them down. Everybody else is behind now, so have a smile again. Now we have breeze, we just got to make it work for us. We just got to hope this wind stays there.
The third day of the race begins with Whitehaven in sight, but the wind hasn't stayed and the fleet are becalmed once more. Consequently, they bunch up again. It's a grim war of attrition. Apparito are determined to try to hold on to their position, and at first light they rig the oars once again.
It's one really big last push because everybody is exhausted. We're ready for the finish.
Sail for Cancer have also lost out in the light airs. Dee takes to the oars. The race is on to reach Whitehaven Harbour.
Whitehaven's all about the tides. You make the cut-off, you're in, and you're in with everybody else. You don't, you're just sat.
As the tide goes out, it becomes too shallow for the yachts to enter Whitehaven Marina to drop off the runners. This means that a few hours either side of low tide, they must wait outside the harbour until there's enough water to get in through the sea lock. It can also result in pressure on the runners to get back to the boat while there's still enough water to leave the harbour with the rest of the fleet. With the fastest sailing time for the leg, Pure Attitude have rowed hard and sailed brilliantly. They lead into Whitehaven ahead of Southampton University. Even without the skipper's deadline to worry about, the distances on this Scafell leg are daunting. The teams must complete a 28-mile bike ride and 14 miles of running that includes 4,000 feet of climbing.
They finished now.
Moby J, White Rose, Sail for Cancer and Aperito are amongst the boats also racing to get their runners in.
My whole strategy was that if we were able to keep in touch with those boats, then I felt we were strong enough to be able to challenge them on the sailing leg to Fort William. However, if we dropped out of a tidal cycle with them, then there wouldn't be a chance.
So Joe and Larry have their instructions. And in her attempt to catch the tidal cycle, Dee is trying to get into the lock despite having hardly any water beneath the keel.
This way?
Yeah,
Because I think it's only going to get shallower, isn't it?
Sail for Cancer are grounded. They now face a long wait to get in, and their chances of winning effectively have gone. A select 6 pairs make the cut-off and head for England's highest mountain. Even before reaching Scafell Pike, the runners must complete the bike ride and an additional 1,000-foot ascent of Blacksail Pass before descending into Wasdale for the main climb to start. By the time they reach the slopes of England's highest mountain, Jeff West's runners, Palonsy and Pilkington, have returned White Rose to the lead of the race. Jack Bush and Fergus MacDonald of Pure Attitude are being pushed hard in second. Larry Morgan and Joe Jackson have gained 1 place and lost another, so they remain in third. Joe is hurting though.
Quite quickly, I felt my back being quite painful. It took a long time to stride up there, and just when you think you've got to the top, there's a bit more. So it was hard.
Just need some water and some food, buddy.
With the summit still some way above them, the 2 mountain marathons in just 2 days are taking their toll. But the runners can't rest. The pressure's on to get back to harbour and out to sea with the other leaders. Many are near breaking point, but they still have the longest sail and the highest, coldest mountain to conquer. The battle for Ben Nevis. Pure Attitude are second to the inhospitable summit of Scafell Pike, England's highest mountain. While the leaders, Palonsy and Pilkington of White Rose, are on their way down and passing the 3rd place runners from Aperito Digital Health. Joe and Larry then watch Pure Attitude descend. While Muir Morton and Nicholas Barber of Moby J close in and overtake on the top. Before everyone heads back to harbour in Whitehaven.
Picked up our bikes and we were off again, pedalling for dear life back to the boat.
They get there at 7:30 in the evening after a difficult day in the mountains. White Rose completed this stage in 6:25, 2.5 hours faster, and are long gone. Pure Attitude and Moby J2 have already left. Joe and Lowry are running to keep Apparito in the race.
Not easy. It wasn't easy. Do you want to see my feet?
We can see the closest boat to us. They're about, they're right on our bow. They're about 2.5 miles away. So, I mean, our runners are epic. They're just, we are delighted to still be in touch with them, and that's what's important. And now we're going to go out there and hunt them down.
The first landmark on this leg is the Mull of Galloway, where the yachts will need to sail close into the rocks to beat the tide. On the way there, Pure Attitude pass White Rose to move into the lead. Apparito move into second.
And then we saw the girls come out, didn't bother go north, so then we were effectively parallel, but they were downwind of us. But with the forecast wind veering, they were going to be level with us.
Pure Attitude are just a mile to the north of us. Nikki and I are very experienced in single-handed sailing, especially handling spinnakers on our own in the dark. So having two of us is just a luxury. And Ellen, of course, as well. So we were three, and we were just very confident with our speed and with the spinnaker, and we just managed to pull away from people.
We can see their green lights, which means that we're no longer behind them, we're next to them. We are in the process of overtaking. Ellen, we're going to jibe.
We watched them come up and get a little bit closer, and they actually overtook us as we rounded Mull of Galloway.
In the morning, there are still 145 miles to go through Scotland's Western Isles to reach Fort William. But the wind has died, with the lead boats still in each other's sights.
Then we watched them sail into a hole and went round them. They watched us sail into a hole, went round us, and it went on like that. So we would get closer and then drift back a little bit.
They can't row all the way to Fort William, but rowing towards patches of wind is essential and painful.
And you can see the guys behind us are still in it, and our wonderful rowers has just rowed us out.
Basically, if you asked me to do anything, girls, I would do it for you.
Well done, girls. That was worth it.
Up to Jura, we were just looking for where the wind was. So at one stage, we put a harness on Nikki and hoisted her up the mast so she could go wind spotting.
They just didn't stop. They didn't stop, tacking. They didn't stop. It was an amazing, amazing feat what they did. Incredible sailing.
The wind has gone ahead of us, so it's blowing straight down south, and
we are having to tack our way up. It's quite intense, we're sailing at quite a high pace, but it appears to be paying off at the moment.
We could see that we were slowly pulling out on the boats behind us, and our commitment on that leg was to give our runners the best chance that we could of getting down the mountain ahead of everybody else. Even though it was a long leg, we still had 40 miles, 50 miles to sail. We made a decision that we were going to sail the boat as though we were short tacking on a short course. And so we were very driven again to not be lazy. Every 0.1 of a knot of speed we took out of the boat. We were meticulous about trimming and steering. We tacked on every shift. And when the tide turned, we went right into the shore. And I would say probably up the shore in the space of maybe 3 or 4 hours, we must have done 100 tacks so that we never got out into the tide, and that really, really paid.
As Apparito pull away from Pure Attitude, the trailing crew still have their eyes on winning the first place prize on IRC Handicap. White Rose are struggling to catch up with either boat as the wind increases. Early on the 5th day, the leaders are on the approach to Fort William through the Corran Narrows. Apparito's ambition of being the first ever all-female crew to finish this race first is in their grasp, and they land with the 18-mile run ahead, including 4,400 feet of climbing in bitter conditions. The sailors wave them off. Their job is done.
I thought they were fantastic. It was an absolute pleasure sailing with them. They were amazing. Me and Larry running up the last mountain up in Ben Nevis, every 5 minutes we were like, did you see them last night? They were amazing.
As Joe and Larry fight their way up the mountain, Pure Attitude land. They're 90 minutes behind on the ground, but in a great position to win the handicap prize after consistent progress on the final leg. With the lead 2 teams on the last land stage and both set to achieve their targets, the rival now is the mountain itself, and the conditions are harsh.
Well, it's not over yet. Right, please.
Tracker! My hands are completely numb, I can barely hold my phone. Slide down the snow.
As Apparito reach the bottom of the mountain with 4 miles left to run back to harbour, the rest of the crew have come to greet them.
We were so lucky with our sailors getting us into such a great position. We set ourselves sort of a target to get up and halfway back down before we saw anyone else, and that was what happened. And you know, we couldn't have asked for more from our sailors, so really all we had to do was get through the Ben Nevis run, and it wasn't too bad.
Apparito Digital Health are the first team to cross the line in the Three Peaks Yacht Race. In the 39-year history of the event, they're the first all-female team to achieve this and win the Daily Telegraph Cup. Also making their Three Peaks debut, Pure Attitude, a second over the line, but are awarded the Barmouth Publicity Cup for the overall winner, calculated on IRC Handicap plus running times.
Unbelievably proud. Yeah, I mean, what an incredible effort. We've all worked really hard, and it's been a complete team effort. And of course, the boys have done an absolutely incredible job running, which is a tough thing to do.
First time we've done this, and it's gone so well. It's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
With a time of 3 hours 30 minutes, Palonsy and Pilkington have another great run to claim third place for White Rose and the King of the Mountains trophy for themselves. Over the next 24 hours, the rest of the fleet, who made such a great race of the 39th Three Peaks Yacht Race, arrive at the finish and can now look forward to a very hard-earned rest. Having missed the lock in Whitehaven, Dee Kafari was able to make up a lot of places on the sail up to Scotland, but could never challenge the front of the pack. Her team, Sail for Cancer, finished 6th overall.
It's a very unique event, and it's really hard to describe, but it's I understand why all these salty sea dogs have been doing it for years. It gets into you, because already before we crossed the finish line, we had a conversation of, right, so next time we need a boat with a slightly shallower draft. It's got to be set up for rowing a bit better, because if it's light you're going to row, but it's got to be able to sail, because if there's wind you can make a really big difference. And I couldn't believe we were having this conversation before we'd crossed the finish line. That's how scary this race is. It gets into you. We've already learned from all the mistakes we made, and you kind of want to come back and prove that you can do it better.
I might need just everyone on one side.
It's fantastic. It is probably the most challenging yacht race I've ever taken part in. It requires an immense amount of teamwork. It requires huge expertise in sailing in some of Britain's most challenging waters. It requires good navigational skills. It requires good tactics. It's great. It packs a hell of a lot into a small amount of time, and is a proper endurance event.
This is tough. This is really tough, and it's tough in a way that I only had 2 sailors and somebody that I could explain stuff to help us. You can't go to sleep and rest. So actually, it's brutal on the sailors, and we thought we had the easy time because we didn't have to run up the mountains. And equally for the runners, they have a brutal time. They get absolutely nailed. They have to sit on a boat in very uncomfortable conditions 9 times out of 10 and prepare themselves for like 3 marathons uphill. And I think it's very rare that you can get such extremes together. And but the community it creates is amazing, and the support and the fun and the banter that we've had with all the other teams. It definitely makes you part of a unique family once you've done it. And now I know why when I said to people, I'm going to do the Three Peaks Yacht Race, they said, oh, I've done that, that's brilliant. And everybody knew somebody that had done it, and everyone had a favourable word to say for it. And I'm quite pleased now to be part of that family.